Hey, it's Rob Weinberg, and on this channel, we empower people to take control of their futures through expert mortgage, financial, and real estate strategies. If it's your first time here, hit that subscribe button and also get notified on all the future content that we're putting out every single week. In today's lesson, we're going to be talking about tactics for a seller's market. And we're specifically talking about buying a home in a strong seller's market like we're seeing in many areas of the country right now in 2023. So we're going to go over all these topics today. And to start out, I want to talk about the preparation for buying a home in a strong seller's market. It's not just winging it. In a seller's market as a buyer, you have to be prepared. You have to be serious and you have to be motivated. So what can you do to get prepared and make sure you have the best chance at buying a home in a strong seller's market? Number one, you want to make sure your credit and your finances are in the best possible shape they can be. And specifically what I'm talking about is making sure that you are fully pre-approved by a reputable lender with a good reputation before you start going and looking at any property. Because that's going to be the first question that a seller's agent or a seller is going to ask is, are you pre-approved? Are you ready to go? And do you have your money and financing in order? And if you don't, it's too late at that point. It's going to take any lender typically a day or two at least to get that pre-approval put together. Sometimes it can be done the same day, but it is rushed. So you really want to try to do it at least a couple weeks, ideally even a few months ahead to at least start that initial conversation with a lender. The other thing that you want to realize about getting your finances in order to buy a home and being prepared is that in this market, although there are a lot of no down payment and low down payment options, cash is king and sellers are accepting offers that have higher down payment. So if you and someone else put an offer in on a home and you're both offering $300,000, but you're putting 3% down and the other person is putting 10% down, generally they're going to take that 10% down because that person is looked at as being more financially stable and more serious about buying the home. They'll have more skin in the game with that higher down payment. So as far as preparation, although we can get you into a home with very, very little to no down, you want to have that money available to give you that flexibility and put that best foot forward when it comes to actually putting an offer in on a property. So those are some preparation tips. When it comes to the pre-approval, as I said, do it all up front, make sure it's ahead, and the lender reputation on that pre-approval can make a big difference. So getting a pre-approval from a national lender that maybe is out of state is not going to be looked at as favorably as a local lender with a long-standing reputation, at least in the current state, but ideally in the county or the area that you're buying in. Okay, so that's your preparation. Now, bidding wars. How do you overcome bidding wars? It's becoming so apparent that almost every home goes under a bidding war, especially if it's a lower price, or I should say a competitively priced home where it looks like there's a deal to be had. Okay, so what strategies can buyers use to stand out in a market where there's all these bidding wars? Number one is you want to consult with your realtor on your offer. That's probably the most important thing. I have buyers today trying to figure out and negotiate on their own. It's not going to fly. You're not going to get the best deal, and worst case, you may actually end up losing some money in the process. So consult with your realtor about the offer. You want to submit a strong offer up front, especially if you know that there's a lot of offers on the property, and I'm sure your realtor will tell you that too. Having that larger earnest money deposit, earnest money is the money you put up front to show them you're serious about buying the home, and it's generally done at the time that you put that contract in place or give that contract in. So having, say, $5,000 earnest money versus someone else who's maybe only doing $2,500, that can give you a leg up. So those little things that put you ahead of the competition. An escalation clause has become very common lately. Discuss that with your realtor to escalate the price if there are multiple offers, and it will ensure that you have a better chance at getting that property instead of losing it for maybe $5,000 or $10,000. You want to be flexible with closing timelines, and you also want to discuss a potential lease back to the seller. So a lot of sellers look at an offer favorably if it will give them flexibility. Maybe instead of moving in right away, you're going to let them have 2-3 weeks, a month before they need to actually move all their stuff out of the property, and they'll lease it back from you as the buyer in the meantime. Now, generally with almost all loans, if you're buying as a primary home, you must move in within 30 to 60 days of the closing. So you can't just let them stay for months and months. But if they just need a couple weeks to get things out, give them a little more leisurely moving scenario, that sometimes can put your offer at the top of the stack. And I've had sellers recently tell me, and realtors, that they accepted the offer from my buyer because they allowed them that flexibility of the lease back. back or whatnot, okay? So that's an important thing to understand. Lastly, the pre-approval vouching. Now, this is something not a lot of people do, but in scenarios where it's multiple offers and a lot of bids, I always want to call and vouch for that pre-approval to the seller or listing agent from my buyer. So what that means is I am personally going to reach out by call, text, or email, and I'm going to vouch for your pre-approval. I'm going to let them know how long we've been working together, everything we've verified, where your credit is. Are you excellent or are you good to fair? I'm going to be upfront and honest so they know where we're at and how quickly we can get this done. That will help you, again, put your offer at the head of the stack. Most lenders don't do this. It is something that I do for my clients, no additional cost or fee for that service from me. So that's how you win bidding wars. Now, creative offer structuring is something really important because with different offers, even if it's only 2 or 3 offers, how do you be creative to make your offer stand out, right? So waiving contingencies is a big one. Discuss with your realtor, but waiving an inspection and or waiving an appraisal can sometimes make sense if financially you're able to handle that risk. A lease back period, as we discussed, where you'll rent the house back to the seller for a short period of time, which will allow them flexibility in moving out and getting their stuff out of the property. But you want to evaluate the risks of these creative offer structures, and specifically you may want to talk to a real estate attorney that can help you assess the risk and if it's worth it, if the benefits are worth that risk, okay? So those creative offer structures can definitely come into play and give you that leg up. Now, when it comes to negotiating with the seller, this is where your expert realtor partner is really going to come in, and this is where they really earn their money, is the negotiation. So you need to have that preparation we talked about, and you also have to have the flexibility. Maybe the seller wants to do a really quick close, maybe they want a little bit longer, maybe they want a 60-day close or something. Have that flexibility. Understand the seller's motivations and tailor the offer accordingly. So your realtor should be able to get intelligence from the seller's agent, others in the transaction, to understand what is the motivation of the seller. What can you do as the buyer to entice them to accept your offer over someone else? There's always a meal ticket or a specific motivation that if you can speak to that, you can get your offer accepted, even if it's not necessarily the highest priced offer. Realtor communication and intelligence, as I was saying, is key. You want to maintain really good communication, both you and your agent, with the seller's agent, because how you kind of set the stage and the foundation of communication is how they assume the process is going to go. So if you're quick and responsive and on the ball, then it's going to give them more opportunity to accept your offer instead of saying, oh, they haven't gotten back to me in 3 days. I don't know if we want to work with this buyer. So who you work with matters. It's absolutely instrumental in a successful real estate transaction. So you want to be very picky up front about making sure you're working with a really, really good real estate agent with experience and know-how. Of course, your mortgage advisor as well, but when it comes to the negotiation, realtor is really going to be key. So what are some pieces of advice that I have for home buyers who might not find their home right away, their dream home? I'll tell you that doing this for 2 decades plus now, I've seen the ups and downs in the market, and I've seen lately in the last 6 months, a lot of my buyers, it's taking them several rounds of pre-approvals in order to find their home. So what that means is where it used to maybe only take a month or 2, now it's taking 3, 4, 5 months, 6 months to find that right home. And a lot of that's because of the lower inventory and these bidding wars that we were just talking about that are going on so often. Be patient. You've got to be patient. I remember my first home, it took me like 6 months to actually find the right home. So be patient. That's key. If you need to renew your pre-approval, discuss that with your mortgage advisor. They're generally good with my company for 120 days. So when you're getting around 90 days or so, you're going to want to recalibrate and see if it's worth getting everything renewed for another round. Remain open-minded and flexible. Although you may want to live in a specific area, if you can be open-minded and flexible to other areas, you might be able to find that diamond in the rough and find that property at the right price that you've been dreaming of. Consider fixer-uppers. There's a lot of loans now that allow renovation, like FHA 203K and Fannie Mae Home Style. If you've got a good financial scenario where you could qualify for one of those renovation loans, then it may be a good idea to look at a fixer-upper. You might be able to do a small renovation loan. Maybe you only need 15, 20, 30,000 in renovations, and it'll really make that home into exactly what you're looking for. So you want to consider those type of rehab loans. Maybe you are getting a lower priced home and you'll have money aside because you didn't have to put as much down because of the lower price. Now you can use that extra money to put towards the renovation or fixing up the property. And the last thing is going to be really keeping that communication ongoing with your realtor. That's key, as we've been discussing, because your realtor is going to see properties come coming on and off. They're gonna have a real pulse on the market. And in this market, if you miss a day or two of communication, you may miss out on that perfect opportunity to buy a home. So once you've had that offer accepted and your realtor has gotten your offer signed by the seller, what are the final steps in the process to make things go smooth? Number one, make sure you get all the paperwork and information over to your lender and your realtor as soon as possible. Get that communication rolling right away so that you can start working on the things that need to be done during the process. You also want to look at the key contract dates, like the loan commitment and the closing date, so that we know exactly what's going to need to be done by what date, and we can ensure that we meet those dates. If there's going to be any concern or issue, the sooner we know and we can communicate that to the other side, the less friction there's going to be in the process and the more professional it is for everyone involved. So I hope today's given you some insight on tactics that you can use as a buyer in a strong seller's market. Again, if you found value, subscribe to the channel. And if you'd like a personal one-on-one with me, I do offer consultation. I'm licensed in Florida, Connecticut, as well as Massachusetts, and you can reach me by call, text, or private message. 860-413-3938. As always, I hope that helps, and we'll see you next time. Take care.